Yes, same color guy. We under human mutations that protect against malaria. Here, we are going to talk about like 6. 1, we have the glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency. This is 1. Second, we talk about the sickle cell anemia. Thirdly, we are going to talk about the hemoglobin C. Then fourth one, we have thalassemia. The fifth one, talk about the nitric oxide. This is thalassemia. Then the sixth one, this is pyruvate kinase deficiency. So these are the protection mechanisms against malaria. Yes, let's begin with the glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency. Remember, this is a X-linked genetic disorder. And glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, this enzyme is produced in the pentose phosphate pathway and is responsible for the production of the NADH. This NADH protects the red blood cells against oxidative damage. Now, imagine if this enzyme is not present, meaning that we shall have increased oxidative stress. And remember, the cells infected by the parasite, we shall have also increased oxidative stress. And this one will damage the parasite itself, and to also damage the red blood cells and the red blood cells. So the damaged red blood cells, infected and damaged red blood cells, they are easily removed by the spleen. So the spleen detects these red blood cells and they are removed. So this one reduces the load of the parasite, meaning that the red blood cells, they are removed before the parasite matures. So it will not complete the life cycle. So they are removed before the parasite matures to be immature. Now, when it comes to the sickle cell anemia, sickle cell is also a genetic disorder. It is a genetic disorder where valine replaces the glutamine. Now, this one, for the sickle cell anemia, at low oxygen supply, the cells will stick together. The red blood cell will stick together, or call it polymerization, at low oxygen concentration. And in presence of parasites, we shall have increased oxygen. There's increased use of oxygen. So the concentration of oxygen will reduce because the parasite uses oxygen. Now, this one, decreased oxygen will lead to sickle cells for the polymerization. And this one directly affects the parasites. If it affects the parasites directly, means that the load will reduce, the parasite load. And again, the cells, these cells, they are easily detected by the spleen. So they will be removed by the spleen. And this one decreases the parasite load again. You can see. Now, when it comes to the hemoglobin C, this one, it also acts in the same way like the sickle cell, but for it, it won't produce the much of the scoring of the cells. But remember, the parasites produce proteins called knobs. These knobs, the proteins will come to the red blood cell surface and will increase the thickness of the red blood cells to the endothelium of the blood vessels or the capillaries. So when they increase the thickness, means that less red blood cells, less infected red blood cells will go to the spleen, meaning that they will not be removed by the spleen. Now, in presence of this hemoglobin C, these knobs, the production of knobs is altered. Production of knobs is altered. Meaning that the infected red blood cells will be in saturation and they will go to the spleen to be removed from the saturation. So this one will decrease the load. So this one, again, it will prevent against the cerebral malaria. Remember, sequestration of the red blood cells in the capillaries of the brain will lead to the cerebral malaria and also to affect the kidney. So to decrease the kidney damage. These ones are seen in severe malaria. Now, when it comes to the thalassemia, this one is where the production of the globin chains, the globin chains is low or it's not even there sometimes. So this one, when the person has thalassemia, we shall have increased number of red blood cells. But these ones will be very small. They are small in size. So when they are small in size, we shall have hypochromic and microcytic anemia. So, mean that for the parasite, for the Plasmodium, it has to infect a lot of red blood cells to have an effect. Yeah, to have an effect. Mean that it has to affect a lot of red blood cells. to produce clinical effects. So this one reduces the parasite load, of course, and again reduces the nutrients. Remember, red blood cells are small in size, so mean that the nutrients for the parasites are low. So to also reduce the parasite load, and again, affected red blood cell will be cleared by the spleen. So it has to affect a lot of red blood cells to produce clinical effects. Also, there is reduced nutrients, and the damaged red blood cells, they are removed by the spleen. So in thalassemia, that's how it protects against the malaria. Now, nitric oxide. This nitric oxide, remember, it's a vasodilator. It's a vasodilator. That's one. And it directly affects mitochondrial respiration. Mitochondrial respiration of the parasite. So, vasodilator, this one reduces the sequestration of the parasites in the small capillaries or in the capillaries. So, this one will increase the flow in case there is sequestration of the parasite in capillaries. The flow will be maintained because of vasodilation. And the parasite here is affected. Parasite is affected. So mean that this one will protect against the parasite load will reduce, and also prevent cerebral malaria. As it reduces the sequestration. There is decreased sequestration in the capillaries. When it comes to pyruvate kinase, remember red blood cells, they lack nucleus. Mean that they depend mostly, they depend on glycolysis for ATP. And remember, this enzyme is responsible for the ATP production in glycolysis. So mean that ATP production will be altered. ATP production will be altered if there is deficiency of this enzyme. So of course, this one will lead to anaerobic condition. Anaerobic condition. Of course, this one will directly affect the parasite. The parasite will be affected. And again, the damaged red blood cells, they are cleared by the spleen. So that's how these mechanisms protect against malaria. Yes, same kind of guy. If you like this video, please don't forget to like it and share. Thanks so much.